I've realized that I've always needed to kind of improve and to grow. And I tend to be a sort of a person that's kind of ambitious. So I'm always
Hmm.
kind of looking at things to like, how I can get better at something, how I can improve. And that also goes into like myself and my way of
Yeah.
being. But I would say like in my circle, which is, I have to say, I mean, and this is the truth, but it's not a big circle.
Yeah.
Okay. It's actually a small circle. If I'm going to count the people that are like my friends, it's
Hmm.
a small circle. It's not a big circle. And like years ago, I probably would have been embarrassed to say that, but now I'm like, it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
But like, when you are really honest about what you want and what you kind of also expect from friendships and relationships, it does make that circle a little bit smaller. But I also
Yeah.
think that like we have a choice. Like, I mean, we have a choice. We have a choice. I have a choice now. When I was 18, I had less of a choice because I wanted to be
Hmm.
friends with everybody, I
Yeah.
mean, as
Yeah.
as you do when you're younger. But when you're older, you kind of like you want to be around people that make you feel good.
Yeah.
You want to be around people that like stimulate you. You want to be around people like I want to be around people that I can learn from.
Hmm.
Like, or that and that are also want to be around people that are just good people, that
Yeah.
are caring, that are kind. So I get to choose now. And I'm
Yeah.
okay with choosing. And if that means that there's less, then that's okay as well.
Hello and welcome to the Field Podcast. Again, today I'm here with another remarkable connection through our friends at Podmatch. I'm your host, Melissa Crook. I have Rosamaria Mancini here with me today. Her story is both very unique and very relatable, and you're going to understand what I mean. I've been so excited about this. We're going to unfold her story through our talking points today. We're going to share some resources she's got out there, a book that really is both witty and truthful and raw and relatable. I mean, and the things that we deal with as women as we're navigating seasons and changes and emotions and how we process things. And then she's got a new fun project coming up that by the time this episode drops will have been out in the world for about 4 to 5 weeks. So we'll let her share that at the end. But Rosa Maria describes herself as a perfectionist, sometimes annoyingly to the people around her. She's hates disorders, so organized, but she's good to people. She's a giver. She's very hospitable. It gives her joy to give and share of herself and what she has to offer. And I think that really all of these things are going to come together so succinctly as we unfold her story today. Rosa Maria, welcome to the Field Podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. We're going to get right into it because we've already talked about this a little bit today. Talk to me about your journey with caring for yourself, that self care, that self leadership. There's so many stigmas about it for women, about it being selfish. And we have this habit of putting everything and everyone first before we tend to ourselves. You learned much in your own way, but a lot of similarities to how I learned that is not sustainable, that we've got to tend to ourselves and make sure that we're doing what we need so we can show up the way we want to, not only for ourselves, but for all of those around us. So talk to me about your self-care journey.
So, I have to say that I was just a person who ran, I would say. I was a runner. So I
Mm,
was always doing a lot of different things and happily so, because I always feel like I need to be involved in some sort of project or more than just, we'll say, work.
yeah.
So it was at a period of my life where we had, with my husband, moved from Italy, where I first lived, to Germany.
Mhm.
And I decided in that period that we were going to be here for only about 4 years that I was going to get a PhD. So I said,
Mhm.
I have to do something because
Mhm.
I didn't know how easy it would be for me to work in Germany, especially because I was trained as a journalist. My German was not very good. It's still not very good. So I decided that I was going to embark on this PhD. So I really put my whole self into this project. At the same time, though, I had like two kids, and I had a husband and a
Mm,
house and a whole family and all of these things to do. But I was running, doing it all, managing. But there came a point where I was right about at the end of my PhD. I mean, I did it part time, so it took
mm,
me about 5.5 years to complete
yeah.
it. So it's really grueling. And if
Wow.
anybody has gotten a PhD, they know that it's like just is really exhausting. And I mean, it
Mm,
takes such a long time because it's meant to be a lot of hard work. Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
So I was near the end, and obviously I was very worried about the end because it was like the culmination of it all of this sacrifice, this time, this energy. And I just started not to feel really well. I got sick and I
Mm,
wasn't getting better. And that
mm,
started then to exacerbate. And I started to get worried. I was like, well, what am I going to do if I'm not well? I have to finish my PhD. I have to run this family. I have to have all my order and my neatness and my organization. So it took some time, but I
mm,
realized that it was my anxiety that was getting the best of me and that I
mm.
was kind of burnt out. I was really
Yeah.
burnt out. And it took a while. Honestly, it took several months until I finally figured out that that was what was wrong.
Yeah.
And from that, I realized that I had to carve out time for Rosamaria.
Mm-hmm.
And, and like you said earlier, it's hard to carve out time for yourself when you feel like people will judge you, that they will
Yeah.
think that you're selfish. Like to say, I need to go into my room for 20 minutes because I need to escape or I need to do something else. When you have two kids at home,
Yeah.
feels selfish.
Mm-hmm.
So it took a while for me to understand that I needed to like get better and to take better care of myself in order to continue to take good care of my family.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I started to take better care of myself. And that better care means that, I go in my room and I meditate and I do yoga
Mm-hmm.
nidra, which I love because
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of that state between like sleeping and being awake. And it gives me peace. It helps me to relax.
Yeah.
It also means spending 5 minutes in the morning doing the New York Times Wordle because that makes
Mm-hmm.
me happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's carving out those minutes. Can I disappear for like 6 hours? No, but I have to find time for myself. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I've done, and that's how I'm trying to take better care of myself. And it has completely helped me.
Yeah.
I feel better. I realize that it's just so important for my well-being for me to have those moments, whether it's that 5 minutes for the Wordle, my 10 minutes of 20 minutes of yoga nidra, my podcast listening, which is so important. And I talk about that in my book, which is the result
Mm-hmm.
of my PhD studies. But I have to do that.
Yeah.
And I learned that I had to do that. I didn't realize that I had to do that. I thought I just needed to run, to keep running and running,
Mm-hmm.
but that was not a good path to be on.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is really where healthy boundaries come into play. You set time around it. Like these are some things I know I have to do. And what I love about it is we're not talking about huge gaps of time. We're talking about I need 5 minutes here. I need 20 minutes here. I need, 15 to 30. These are all doable things. It's just a matter of us realizing it, communicating it like, hey, family, this is going to be my time to do this. Hey, mom, wife, friend, I'm going to go do this time. I'll be out in 20 to 30 minutes, and just communicating and realizing that you're how much better off you are and how much better of experience you are for them and you are for yourself when you take the
Mm-hmm.
time to do that. I think that is so important. And it's like, and that's when I talk to people about healthy boundaries. I'm like, this isn't about anybody else's behavior. This is about you and what you need for your health and well-being. And how did it, once you realized, did you see it as setting healthy boundaries at the time? This is still like a word that we're getting used to, or did you just like, okay, guys, this is what I'm going to do. And I got to go do, and here's where, let me set you up here, or while you're at school, or here's a book to read, or a video to watch, or there's
Of
your
course,
snack,
yes.
all the things that you do to make that space for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I have to say, I kind of started to do some homework because I mean, I'm trained like a
Mm,
journalist, so I
yeah,
was like, there's something not right with me in this stage that I'm in. What
yeah,
am I doing wrong? So it really like at the beginning, I didn't understand that I was doing something wrong, that something wrong was wrong for me. It's not wrong for
right,
everyone, but for me,
right.
it didn't work.
Yeah,
So I did my homework and I realized that like this is a big issue for women that we
mhm,
do like when you have young kids they tell you your kids are going to be small just for a little bit so enjoy them and make sure you're playing with them so
mhm.
as a mother you're like well what if I don't want to play like all day
Exactly.
like I need 20 minutes to recharge so you do feel guilty when you are carving that time out but I did my homework and
Yeah,
I learned and I realized that something wasn't right and that there were these other ways and they're like you said they're not complicated they're kind of simple but
yeah,
you have to make the concerted effort to actually do them
right.
um yeah and that's what I started to do so through some research and homework I was like okay there's something not right
Mhm.
there's nothing physically say wrong with me but I'm super stressed out. I
Yeah.
feel anxious. I feel scared. Um,
Mm,
I need to figure out how to do this. And the thing is, like nobody can do this for you. Like
yeah,
you have to do it yourself. Like
yeah.
I rolled up my sleeves and it was like terrible and
Mhm,
hard.
mhm.
Um, and like you have to do it yourself. You have to realize that you have to take care of yourself. Because, my mom was like, you have to do this, you have to take care of yourself. And because she
Mhm,
loves me, obviously.
mhm.
But like I had to actually do it. Like
Yeah,
I needed to do it. It wasn't that like, my husband was gonna say, oh, go take a nap. No, it was like Rosamaria needed to turn around and say, I need a break. I need to disappear for 20 minutes. I need my time. So
yeah.
I realized that it was me that had to figure that out though.
I love that. That is so important because when you figure it out and you need to do it for you, you're more likely to stick to it. You
Hmm.
realize this is going to add value to my life. Everyone's going to win when I take the time to do this. I don't want to give the whole book away, but talk to me about how podcasts played a role in these things that were important for you in your self-care and filling your cup and getting words in your head that were this felt healthy and supportive and just sometimes funny.
Absolutely, sure. So when I moved to Germany, I was really like kind of isolated and alone.
Mhm.
I mean, in Italy, I spoke the language. I am of Italian heritage. So my first move to Italy I'm from New York. So my first move from New York to Italy was obviously it was challenging. But when you speak the language, you know a little bit about the culture from your own background. I adjusted well enough.
Yeah.
But when I came to Germany, I found myself like a real like fish out of water. Like I
Yeah.
didn't know where I was. I didn't know anything about the German culture. And I was also in my early 40s at the time.
Mhm.
And like making friends in your early 40s is not easy. It's really
No,
hard.
it is.
And I am not like the social butterfly of a situation. I am
Mm,
quite an introvert.
mm,
So, I mean, if you start talking to me, I talk and I'm happy, but
yeah,
I'm not the person who is like, in working a room. That's not
mhm,
Rosamaria. So
yeah.
I was here, I was by myself with my husband, obviously, but alone. And I didn't know what to do. So I realized that a lot of my German neighbors, they just walked around the neighborhood. And I was like, I don't know where they're going, but they just kept making laps around the neighborhood. So I was like, maybe I should start walking too. It's very rural in the part of Germany that I live. So
Mhm,
I was like, okay, I'll start walking around. So I started walking, but then put my earbuds in as I was walking.
mm,
And I found the power of podcasts. Like I knew that podcasts existed,
mhm.
from like even from a journalistic perspective, they're great
Sure.
for storytelling. But I didn't realize until I started walking with these earbuds in, like how they could actually help me, like how it was really
Mm,
important for me to have a voice in my ear that told me that maybe what I was feeling at the time, scared, isolated, alone, was really hard. And I remember listening
mm.
to, like, NPR's Life Kit, and they were talking about
Yeah.
making friends, like in your midlife, and how hard that
Yeah.
is. It's like, it's like getting a root canal. Like, it's really challenging. So I was
Yeah.
like, I found these voices that helped me, that made me feel like what I was feeling was okay. And then I
Mm,
also started to use the podcast for entertainment, because then I was
mhm.
like, well, I can laugh because there's comedy
Yeah.
podcasts. And then I'm
Yeah.
a news junkie. So I was like, I can hear about all my US news that I'm really interested in and
Yeah.
what's going on. So it started to fill these voids for me. And I
Mm,
felt less alone. So that's what I wrote about in my memoir, which was
yeah.
the famous PhD project. And I talked about how this podcast listening really was like my life buoy. It really
Yeah.
saved me in Germany. And,
Yeah.
like, I talk a little bit in there about, it's really interesting. Like, there's been studies about how people who listen to podcasts, like, they may not know the host personally, but
Hmm.
they feel a connection with them. Like, they
Yeah.
feel that those people, those hosts, are their friends. Like,
Hmm.
and I mean, and it's not a weird thing. It's just
Yeah.
that like their voice.
Hmm.
Usually what perspective they're going to take on an issue. So it basically, there is this kind of friendship that develops, because then you tune in
Yeah.
all the time. You're like, oh, what is she going to say this week? Or what is he going to add to this discussion? So there
Hmm.
is this kind of idea of friendship with the host of your podcast. And I have to say, I felt that. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, what's up? What's going on to my new, like, my friends on podcasts? And I still feel that. I'm like, oh, I know. Um, what Michael Barbaro is going to say from the daily podcast. Oh, I know
Yeah.
what take he's going to have. So
Yeah.
that I found that to be true.
Yeah, and I think too when when you're transitioning into changes and you were new language, new country, and we'll get more to your move to Italy later and all of the expectations around that. We're going to come back to that when we talk
Okay.
about expectations because I think there's a lot to talk about there. But that when you can have some voices that are familiar, those things that are familiar that make you like, okay, no matter where I'm at in the world, I can listen to this and kind of know what's coming. And there's some stability that goes with that. And I think we saw a big uptick in podcast listening during COVID. That's when I discovered podcast and
Mm-hmm.
found those voices and connections and people. And I get what you mean. And obviously I'm a podcast host now. And that's what we hope for. We want people to come and listen, feel safe, feel seen, known, heard, hopefully share some resources and some things that are going to help them feel supported and like they're not alone. And which is exactly what you experience. It's also a great mode of self-care. You did it while you were walking. You can do it while you're driving. These are things that you don't necessarily have to make extra time in the day for. And I think that's what's so important to remember when we're making this space for ourselves. And when I work with women, I'm like, we're going to look at the time you already have and we're going to carve out space and it's there. I'm just going to help you find it. And I think that's exactly what you did with your research. I want to talk about mental, emotional, physical, spiritual health, how they're all connected. You and I talked about before we got on, you and I both experience anxiety in a very somatic way. It shows up in our bodies in ways that make us think there's something physically wrong with us. But it's
Mm-hmm.
really just how the anxiety is showing up and speaking to us and letting us know something's up. Something needs to be dealt with. So talk to me about that experience and how, because this is, I think, so important for people to remember that our physical, our mental, emotional, spiritual, they're all connected and they play off of each other and they impact each other. And your experience and my experiences both speak straight to the point of that.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that I thought that there was really something, like, physically wrong with me. And I remember I went
Yeah.
to get every test possible. I was like, there's something wrong with my stomach because I feel nauseous. I don't feel well. It's not
Mhm.
possible. And after all of these medical exams and going from one place to another, because you want to find the solution, right?
Yes.
Because you just want it to stop.
Yes.
And then I would go and they would say, nope, your gut looks great, your stomach looks fantastic, everything is fine. So then, like, putting the pieces together, I started to
Mhm.
realize that it was what it was, which was anxiety, and that I
Mhm.
had, like, kind of, I would say, spiraled a little bit, because, like, I've always
Yeah.
been like an anxious person. Like, I know myself. I'm a
Right.
worrier, okay? And I talk
Mhm.
a lot about that in my book too. Like, I worry a lot
Mhm.
about my kids and what they're doing and what they're eating and all of these, and it is become it could be exhausting to be like that, obviously.
Sure.
So when I realized that what it was and that it was anxiety, I realized that I needed to, like, shift and change,
Mm.
because that was, like, causing all of these other things. Like, it was manifesting in all of these other different ways. So it
Yeah.
was really important for me to, like, in essence, find that balance and take care of myself,
Yeah.
because, like, and yes, I was highly functioning. I did everything
Mhm.
I had to do. It's not like I didn't do what I had to do, but you
Yeah.
can't sustain that for a long
Exactly.
period. That's
Yeah.
the thing. You can't sustain that kind of, like, level of, like, it's a level of stress, but it's also this level of not being able um to find that sense of peace
Yeah.
you really need.
Yeah.
So, for me, it just became, like, I don't want to say a life work, but, like, I have to take care of Rosa Maria, because
Yeah.
if I don't, then Rosa Maria doesn't feel well. So,
Mhm.
I need to find my space and my time. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think when you recognize when you're like, "Oh, wait a minute." And then once you realize it and you like, "Oh, okay, what's happening here? I'm feel it's showing up in my body in this way." Like for me, my chest will start to tighten up. I'm like, "Okay, what's going on? What is triggering, bringing this to light? What do I need to take some breaths, maybe write down a few things, write down my feelings, see, but also sometimes I just need to get up and walk around and move from that space. But having those resources, but once you have that, because I think part of anxiety for me is like that not knowing. You're constantly trying to, you think if I find the answer and I solve this, I won't feel
exactly.
it. You're trying to stop the ruminating
Stop
thoughts
it.
and
Yes.
all the catastrophizing that's happening in your
Oh,
head. Of like every time you feel something, I'm like, okay, I'm dying, I'm having a stroke, I have cancer. I mean, there's like your
exactly.
thoughts go wild.
Wild. Yes, it's
And
so true.
so learning to like, oh, this is what this is. And my husband's a really great voice in my head. He's like, this, I was my after my I had a really rigorous workout last weekend. My heart rate was taking a while to settle, and he had watched me do the workout. Like he was doing something, he's like, you just worked your ass off. You're not Your heart's fine. We've had your heart tested. They've told you it's as healthy as
Oh,
can be. I just watched you. You'll be fine. And not in a demeaning, like gaslighting way, but just reminding me of what I
me.
already know, but just needing to like, oh, you're right. You're right. And sure enough, I was fine. I just worked really hard. So yeah, I think just when you can make those connections, but also understanding that impact is so valuable. I'm like, okay, now I know what's happening here, and I can.
Exactly. And you start to understand your body too. Because it really
Yes.
is, like, the thing is this, like, I've learned this as well, like, anxiety is not going to kill me. Like, it may
Yes.
not make me feel well, okay, but it is
Yeah.
not, I don't have to, like, be afraid of it. And it's that, like,
Yeah.
because I was, like, constantly scanning my body, like, what
I
do I feel
know.
okay? Is everything okay? But then, like, I realized that, and you learn this, like, through research and through trying different things that work for you, because there isn't, like, a magic elixir that works for everyone that
Yeah.
is an anxious person. Like, you have to
Yeah.
find what works for you. And I realized that, like, it's not going to kill me. I may not feel bad. I don't need to be afraid of it.
Mhm.
And I'm going to move on. And that is actually work for me. And I've been able to
Yeah.
manage it, which is great.
Yeah.
But coupled obviously with all those moments for me,
Yeah.
because that has to happen as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it sounds like a lot like you were able to change your relationship with it. You never,
Mm-hmm.
because for so many years, you see it as a threat, this thing that's trying to get me or take me out. You're like, no, 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 not a threat. I know what is happening here. I know how to work through this. I've got resources
Mm-hmm.
now. I understand my body. I think that's such a key component there. Thank you so much for sharing that. I was reading, about you and learning about you before I'm like, oh my gosh, I relate to so much of this because that's how, and it's frightening when you're in it. But then once you have the resources and you're able to shift your relationship with it, it's such a huge difference. That's the biggest thing my therapist told me. She's like, I thought I was going to go to therapy and be rid of anxiety. She's like, no one gets rid of anxiety. We're going
Yeah.
to change your relationship with
Relationship
it
with it.
and
It's true.
understand how your body works, which is exactly what you've been able to do. And I think it's such a key thing to remember. We stop seeing these emotions as enemies and start seeing them as clues. Like this is,
Mm-hmm.
something's up that I need to deal with, that I need to not run from, but be like, okay, what's happening here? What's triggering this? How do I need to settle? What's the truth about the situation versus whether the thoughts racing in my head, and discerning that truth from the racing thoughts too is such a big
Mm-hmm.
part.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next talking point, showing up for ourselves unapologetically, which then enables us to show up for other women and people in our lives unapologetically. But first is, I think, learning how to show up for yourself, not apologizing for who you are. You have such a strong sense of who you are. I loved when you gave me your character traits. I can't find my words this morning. Character traits. Because it was the whole thing. It was all of who you were. You weren't like, oh my gosh, you weren't like trying to find what are the acceptable things about me, or what are the things that people are going to be able to handle, or whatever. You named it. And if that is such a key component of being able to, what I call showing up, this is who I am. This is how I show up in the world. This is what I have to offer. This stuff about me might drive you crazy. I own it
Exactly.
all. I own it all. And you address it so well in the book. I think the book is such a great resource and such a gift to people when they get to read it. Talk to me about, you talked about this was essentially came out of your doctoral work. Did it happen gradually? Because it really allowed you to tell your story in real time and what you were experiencing in a way that I think it's that connect. When you read it, it's that really connectable, even though your
Mm-hmm.
experiences are very unique, living abroad, living as an expat, the day-to-day things that you're going through as a woman are like, oh yeah. I mean, it's so talk to me about the unfolding and realization that this was going to be the project, but not only the project, this was something that could really actually be supportive to other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when I started my PhD, I thought that I was going to do something about podcasts because I was interested in podcasts, but I initially
Yeah.
thought that I was going to do something very academic, like most people
Mm-hmm.
do in their PhDs. So I thought I was going to do like heavy research and then looking at, just complicated academia kind of things.
Yeah.
But then I would be talking to my tutors I got my PhD at Swansea University in Wales in the
Mm.
UK. And I'd be talking to them and I'd be like, oh, you have no idea how I'm feeling. Like, about that living in Germany, what a mess. The food is horrible. I feel lonely. And they were like, well, why don't you write about that? Why don't you write
Mm.
about how you're feeling and how you found podcasts could help you in this way? So that's how
Mhm.
the project evolved, because they were kind of laughing at like the things that I was complaining about or that I was mentioning. So they were like, this is kind of funny. Like, this
Mm.
is actually really good.
Mhm.
And it could be interesting to people and also provide what we would say like a service of sorts.
Sure.
So that's how it sort of turned into the memoir that it became. But it's true. I poke a lot of fun at myself in the memoir, but because I need to,
Mhm.
because like it's a way for me to kind of also deal with myself, because I
Yeah.
am like a hoverer. I am annoyingly organized. I am the one who, like, I'm the parent that hates like indoor playgrounds. Like I, because of the germs and the
Worms.
viruses. So like I like, and when I admit these things to people, some people are like turned off, but then others are like, oh, I feel like that too. So I think
Yeah.
it was really about like looking at myself and examining who I was and why in essence I was the way that I am.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really a study of myself. And
Mm-hmm.
then but in order for it to at least work for me, I had to make fun of myself. But because I do, like, I obviously I'm a serious person, but I do get it that it's comical, that my behavior could be comical. And I think that is what people also could relate to as well, because they may have
Mm-hmm.
been like, feeling those same things. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole chapter in there about how I, miss the sun so much, because in
Mm-hmm.
Germany there isn't a lot of sun.
Yeah.
So I just, I'm walking around with sunglasses on here, even though there's no sun. So, I mean, they have like prescription lenses in them so I can
Mm-hmm.
see, which is great. Because but like, I mean, I admit to doing these things. Yeah, I'm running around. There's no sun, but I'm wearing sunglasses because they make me feel good. I feel
Yeah.
fashionable when I have my sunglasses on. I can see, and it makes me feel like maybe I'm like in some place a little more glamorous, warmer, sunnier. So I admit to all of these kinds of things in there. So it's really about being honest with myself and
Yeah.
understanding who I am. And at the same time, like I have to say that after I completed the project and like I had gone through what I had gone through, and then reading my work, like, I mean, I realized, like, because I mean, yes, I knew I was a worrier, but like
Mm-hmm.
I was catastrophizing the future. Like I
Yeah.
was always worried about like what was going to happen to my kids and if they were going to get hurt at the playground and all of this stuff. So I was like, wow, like it's also evident in there. And I
Mm-hmm.
kind of also thought about the style of how I wrote it too. Like I used a lot of
Mm-hmm.
like, short, truncated sentences because, you know, that's kind of the way I think too.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be emblematic of that, but that's also the way somebody who's like, fast paced running like thinks and writes.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very
Yeah.
emblematic of me in that
Wow.
sense.
Yeah, it can be so eye-opening to go back and read your own story
Mm-hmm.
and be able to kind of see it in real time. It's refreshingly honest, and I think when the refreshingly honest piece, you said this already, but it gives people permission to be like, oh man, I have that. I feel, I mean, maybe not the same way you do, but that comes up for me too, and it's kind of a reminder of like we've all got our stuff. We all, and there's things that it gives people permission to talk about it because we as women have been told so many things about what it is and isn't okay to talk about. And
Mm-hmm.
and when we run into someone who's knows who they are and is not afraid to speak it and say it, it's like, oh yeah, it's kind of like take a deep breath. I can be myself with this person. This is a safe space to land. I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel, and you find out who your people are because I think it's such a good lesson too. And not everybody is for us, and that's okay. And we're not for everybody.
Buddy.
That doesn't mean anyone's done anything wrong. I mean, that just means that we have people that get us, and we have people that don't. We have people we get, we have people we don't. That's okay. But
Mm-hmm.
be yourself and be your authentic self so that you are surrounded by the people that are for you and get you, and that you're able to do the same for them. I think that's such a great reminder of that, and the importance of that. You grew up in New York, an Italian family. you
Mm-hmm.
you moved to Italy to be a journalist as a single woman, and had like a lot of but you had a very specific value system you grew up with in this family, Catholic background. Talk to me about how those values and that why that took you to Italy, what you've learned about those, how they've shifted and changed as you've gone through these experiences.
Sure. So, growing up in a tight-knit Catholic Italian family has its advantages, in that, you know, there are people always around, okay? And
Yeah.
these people, they love you, okay? They
Hmm.
love you. They're there for you. So it was very strange for my parents, who I love dearly. And my dad's no longer with us, but my
Hmm.
mom, who I still love dearly. Um, when I said that I was going to Italy, yes, they were Italian immigrants. They immigrated to the US, but
Mm.
they're like, "Well, why are you leaving us? You know,
Hmm.
we love you. We're here. There's a whole group of us."
Yeah.
But they also were very supportive. So they're like, "Go," and I was
Mm.
like, "I'm just going for a year. I'm going to come back, and then I'll, just
Yeah.
to have my experience at this news organization, and then come back to New York." So
Yeah.
I went with all of this love and thinking that I was only going to stay this short period and come home. But then obviously
Mhm.
different things happened. But
Yeah.
I remember that, like, I mean, loved Italy, and I still love Italy because all of those values that I grew up with
Hmm.
were there. Okay. I mean, obviously it's
Mm.
not a perfect country, but that
Sure.
love of family, that respect, the time, like the quality time, the meals together, like that was all important. So it was very
Yeah.
easy for me to shift in that regard, because I was like, well, I'm
Sure.
finding all of those beautiful things that I had in New York, they're also here.
Yeah.
So that was positive. However, what I did find was that I wasn't, even though like in New York, I felt that I was very Italian. Okay.
Hmm.
Because I spoke Italian, I had these Italian parents. My mother made me like meatball sandwiches for lunch while the other kids were eating like peanut butter and jelly. So, I mean, I was very Italian.
Did
But
you
when
guys
I,
make the sauce every Sunday night?
of course,
Of
yes,
course.
of
Yes.
course, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I felt very Italian, but
Hmm.
when I went to Italy, like I wasn't very Italian. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't really fit in. So it was very hard.
Mm.
As much as I felt like, oh no, I'm Italian, sono italiana. But then when I was there, they're like, you're not Italian, you're American, which I am,
Mm.
obviously.
Yeah.
So it was really tough, I have to say, from my identity perspective, because I was like, all of
Yeah.
these things that I believed about myself.
Yeah.
Um, then I got there and they were like, well, you're not really that. I mean, you speak Italian, but you speak
Mm.
Italian with a heavy American accent.
Hmm.
You have blonde hair and blue eyes, so you don't really look like us. You dress differently. So, I mean, I was fairly young at the time, so
Yeah.
it did have an impact on me. But then I also realized, and this is like, I think the most important thing is that, like, I I mean, I'm not a perfect person, but I like myself. Like, I'm okay.
Mm.
Like, I do.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I have things that I need to work on, but I'm okay. Like, I'm good with
Yeah.
me. So, like, and that evolved in Italy a lot. Like,
Mm.
I was like, my confidence grew in myself. And I was like, well, I am American, and I am happy of my American upbringing. That was mixed in very much with the Italian, I have to say.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
it was that nice mix that made me proud. So
Yeah.
I think that, like, it did, like, at the beginning, it took a toll on me. I was like, what do
Hmm.
you mean? Because I did do things differently. Like, I
Hmm.
was having a cappuccino at 3 in the afternoon, which is like a scandalous no in Italy. You cannot do that. And I was like, I don't care. I want a glass of milk that's warmed up at 3, even though Italians were like, you cannot drink that. Or so, like, I was breaking all of these like rules that they had. But
Uh-huh.
like then I was like, I was okay with it, I mean, it took some
Yeah.
time. I was okay with it, and I became more okay with me.
Mm.
But that is like a work, I had to say, was a work in progress. Like, I think
Sure.
that confidence also comes with age, and it comes with falling
Yeah.
down and learning and growing. So I think um, that was part of that journey in Italy. And then it all just
Yeah.
got much more complicated when I when I moved to Germany. It just was like, I was like, I don't know where I am, but I'm definitely not German, but very much still Italian, and obviously very American. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and this goes so nicely into also expectations. You had one set of expectations here, but then you learned differently. And then, I mean, I think anytime we go anywhere, we have this idea in our heads and we go like, oh, that's not quite what I thought that was going to be. I think it's so interesting too. You grew up in this tight knit Italian family, but as an introvert, that you were the one that went out and did something different. I think too, that kind of shatters people's and maybe even your own family's expectations. Like,
Sure.
oh
Yeah.
gosh, we didn't see that coming.
Yeah. I'm
So
the only one who left the nest. I'm like the only
yeah,
one
and
so
that's
far.
it. I want to explain this to people who I lived on Long Island for 2 years. My oldest daughter went to college on Long Island for 4 years and my middle daughter for another 2 years. And so we have about a 6 year period where we got to know a lot of families from the area, a lot of them Italian families. Italian families on Long Island live very close to each other. We had friends whose son decided to move to California. I thought they were going to have a collective heart attack that he was leaving Long Island and going to California. Like, what are you doing? You can't leave. It's very normal for these kids to grow up. They go to college. They may go to college locally and then do grad school away, but they all come back. They get a job in the city. They take the LIRRR in from Long Island. They might come back after their master's and live at home till they're 30 to save money so they can afford the house. I mean, there's a whole family structure and system that happens here. And so when you completely disrupted that, living out of your own expectations, decided what you wanted, I love that your family was both like, whoa, but also supportive. I think that's such a key thing when I just hats off to you for like being willing to be the one, because and also blowing up these, I think, expectations we have of people. We kind of decide as a society what an extrovert looks like and they'll do, what an introvert looks like and they will do, what an whatever the case may be. And it's like, no. That's just a part of who I am. It's not my whole identity. It doesn't drive. And I will do the things and follow my heart. What made you decide? What was the thing? Was there a key component? Like, I think I'm going to go take this job in Italy and have this adventure.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great opportunity. I was working with the Wall Street Journal, so I was
Wow.
like, I have to go. I mean,
Yeah.
and honestly, it was a fantastic job. Like I got to travel all around Italy
Mm.
and I wrote those kind of like, Sunday feature stories. It was amazing. So it was just
Yeah.
such a great opportunity that I was like, I have to go. And, like you had said, and like I said, my parents were very supportive. I
Mm-hmm.
remember my dad, he was so proud of me. Like he was like, "Oh my God." And then in some ways I think they kind of also accepted it more because I went to their country. So it
Yeah.
was like, it's not like I
Sure.
moved someplace that was unfamiliar to them.
Yeah.
So in some ways, like I kind of, went back to their roots. So I think they really liked that.
Yeah.
And that's why, I mean, they were also quite supportive of the whole thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
yes, and I liked what you said about the idea of like not fitting into the box because I am an introvert, but like if I need information, like for something I'm
Mhm.
writing, I'm the most annoying person there is. Like I am like,
It's the reporter
sending,
in you.
yes, it's the reporter. So I send a lot of emails, I pick up the phone. So like, but it's more for like, I have to get something done. So
Yeah.
I need my information. So like
Yeah.
we don't all like you can't tick all the boxes off for what kind of person like you're expected to be because you have a certain quality trait because
Yeah.
I become kind of aggressive is a heavy word, but if I need something,
Assertive.
then I'm on it. Assertive.
Yeah.
Assertive is a
Yeah.
better word. Yeah, aggressive
Yeah.
sounds too rough. Yeah. So let's say assertive. So yeah,
Yeah.
you don't you have certain characteristics and then you have like others that kind of mix in and then make you who you are and then make you who you
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you go there, you take the job, you end up staying much longer than you planned on. You meet your future husband there. And through that process, and he's a diplomat, that makes, like, all of a sudden you're moving to Germany. You're like, wait a minute, I thought I was coming here for a year. I've ended up staying here for many more than that. I've met my partner here. We've got we have this family, and I'm not going back to New York. I'm going to Germany. I mean,
Yes.
so
Exactly.
your whole life has been just blowing what expectations out of the water, but also adjusting within that. As much as you were like, I can't believe this is happening, you've also found ways to find your peace and find your path within this too. So I think that flexibility. But talk to me about that transition, because that's been a bumpy one.
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, adjusting to Italy was challenging, but it
Mm-hmm.
was just a little more natural because of the
Yeah.
language, because it was home, because of the values and the way of living. But when my husband, who at the time was in the Italian Air Force, and now he works for NATO now, but at that time he was he was like, we're going to Germany. And I was like, we're
Mm.
going, like you said, we're going to Germany. I was like, what am I going to do in Germany? And so, like, and I was like, Germany wasn't on my bucket list. It wasn't
Yeah.
on, I don't have a bucket list, but if I did have a bucket list, Germany wasn't on it. Like, I was not very, and it's unfortunate to say, but I wasn't very interested in the culture, maybe because I didn't know anything about it. So I was like,
Sure.
where are we going? What are we going to do? But when I got here, and yes, at the beginning I was isolated, alone, but then I also like learned more about the culture, and I realized that there were like all of these positive sides to being here.
Yeah.
So it was a slower way of living compared to living in a bigger
Mm.
city like Rome, which is
Sure.
chaotic and crazy, but obviously beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I found a slower way of living. I mean, my kids were really happy here.
Mm.
And, one thing led to another. And then my husband moved from his old position into his new position. And that meant that we were going to stay. Um,
Mm.
but that even that was like frightening of in itself. I was like, oh,
Sure.
now we're saying it was one thing to know, okay, we're going to be here for 4 years, then we'll go
Yeah.
back. But
Mm-hmm.
then having to adjust again and in essence agreeing that this was a good decision. Because when you make
Mm.
decisions, you're not always sure that
Yeah.
they're right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you still don't know. You don't know if
Yeah.
they're the right decision. You kind of do your research, you figure out what you think is best, but then you make a decision, but it's
Yeah.
not guaranteed that it's going to be the right decision. So, we made this decision together to stay. And while I have to say it was very easy for my husband, and I won't say easier,
Mm-hmm.
because he had his work colleagues, he had his
Sure.
circle, and then there was me and I was like, well, okay, I got my podcast, but it's also not enough because I do
Yeah.
need a real circle of people. I do need to find my way in the community. I have to make a home for myself. So
Yeah.
that was quite challenging to navigate as well. But
Yeah.
I mean, have I like completely integrated into the German culture? I have not.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to say, but I'm a work in progress. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know and I mean, I think we're so lucky today that, we don't have to completely integrate into a culture. Like
Right.
it's not a requirement. Like
Right.
years ago,
We can
you
still
went
be
to
who we are, and
exactly.
adopt things, live amicably, all those things, but not lose sight of what makes us who we, all the pieces and parts that make us who we are.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's about respecting the place that you're in, and
Yeah.
being appreciative of it. But like, I don't have to completely change. I can be
Right.
me. Years ago, it was like you went somewhere and you had to like, you had to kind of, people changed, they had to change their names,
Yeah.
because their names were too, Latin sounding or something along
Sure.
those lines. So we don't have to like, those are not issues that we have to deal with today. So we can still
Yeah.
be ourselves. So I've been able to kind of adjust and find
Yeah.
my way, but it is a constant, it's a work in progress. I
Yeah.
mean, it's so funny. I always think like, my son who was born here in Germany, I mean, he identifies as German. Like he's like, I'm
Wow.
German, and
Yeah.
I'm always like, oh my God, Uh, uh, but he is, and
Yeah.
he's a wonderful person. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it is, it is interesting though. It is
Yeah.
definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting, but it is important to just, you know, be you, be
Yeah.
you. And if you are true to yourself, I think that you are able to have that success. And it is not success in a job, it's just success in feeling good about yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yes. I
yeah.
love that. And this goes so nicely into embracing our layers. And you have done I call them layers, all the pieces and parts of our lives that make up who you are. You have throughout this conversation really, without me even asking, address that so well, learning of loving yourself as you are, taking all that comes with you, being honest and vulnerable about that, being welcoming to it, knowing sometimes we laugh at ourselves because to keep
Yes.
you should keep the levity in, but without apologizing or feeling bad about it. Like, this is who I am. This is how I mix up. So was that modeled to you growing up? Because you have such a good sense of the ability to embrace all the parts of you.
Um, I think so. I think so. I mean, my parents were very, like they were just good people.
Yeah.
And so they kind of just let us be. But
Mm,
they really encouraged us to do what we wanted to do. They weren't kind of like, we had to, they wanted us to study, but they were like, if you want to study this, it's okay. There was no like, you need to be
yeah.
a doctor, you need to be this. So I think
Mm,
that like that freedom,
mhm.
to be and to do what we wanted, I think has helped me a lot.
Sure.
Even though they were quite like, interestingly enough, obviously in an Italian family, they were quite strict about everything else.
Yeah.
But everything else was no. But like, anything you want to study, anything that's expressive that you want to do was okay. So I
Yeah.
think that has like definitely impacted me, because I haven't felt like there wasn't something that like either I wanted to achieve or I wanted to do or try, that wasn't okay.
Yeah.
They were quite open and accepting about that. And
Yeah.
I hope to convey that to my kids as well,
Sure.
because it's hard. It's hard out there to
Yeah.
be who you are.
Yeah.
It's hard to be there out there. Like, we're all kind of striving for what perfection might look like on social media, and
Mhm.
that is really difficult. So like to have
Yeah.
imperfections and to laugh at them and to accept them, is definitely okay.
Yeah. I love that. I love that they didn't, because so many times, and many times parents they mean well, but I hear this a lot from immigrant families, that they've got a specific route they want you to go because they came to this country for you to have this opportunity, and so
Mm.
they've got a specific idea around it. I love that your parents did allowed you to explore and be, which then you understood my value isn't based on whether I choose that thing they expect, or I'm not disappointing anyone because I didn't choose that thing. That does open the door for you to really show up as you are and explore all the things that feel in alignment, or maybe they aren't, but you got the chance to try and figure it out. I
Mhm.
think that's such an important piece of that. In this work of what I call feel, it's called the Field Podcast, Finding Empowerment, Embracing Layers, and how that impacts your relationship with yourself as well as your relationship with other people. You've really shared with us your journey of learning to cope with the things that were getting in your way of living well, and learning and finding resources and making time to care for yourself, and making time to make sure you could show up the way that you knew was healthiest for you. And that shift in that, and understand, you know, unlearning and relearning your relationship with when anxiety comes up for you. Those are all parts of you really learning how to embrace your layers and really find and feel empowered, feel like, because I think when so many times when anxiety is running the ship, you feel everything feels out of control. You just
Hmm.
desperately want things to be in control so you don't feel it. So being able to navigate that, you've been able to find your way through it while completely staying true to who you are. So how has that impacted your relationship with yourself as well as your relationship with other people?
Um, I think that, uh, my relationship with myself has kind of, you know, always been one in which I've realized that I've always needed um, to kind of improve and to grow. And I tend to be a sort of a person that's kind of ambitious. So I'm always
Hmm.
kind of looking at things to how I can get better at something, how I can improve. And that also goes into like myself and my way of
Yeah.
being. But I would say like in my circle, which is, I have to say, I mean, and this is the truth, but it's not a big circle.
Yeah.
Okay, it's actually a small circle if I'm going to count the people that are like my friends. It's
Hmm.
a small circle, it's not a big circle. And like years ago I probably would have been embarrassed to say that, but now I'm like, it's okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
But like it, when you are really honest about what you want and what you kind of also expect from friendships and relationships, it does make that circle a little bit smaller. But I
Yeah.
also think that like we have a choice. Like, I mean, we have a choice. We have a choice. I have a choice now. When I was 18, I had less of a choice because I wanted to be
Hmm.
friends with everybody, I
Yeah.
mean, as
Yeah.
as you do when you're younger. But when you're older, you kind of like you want to be around people that make you feel good.
Yeah.
You want to be around people that like stimulate you. You want to be around people like I want to be around people that I can learn from.
Hmm.
Like, or that and that are also want to be around people that are just good people, that
Yeah.
are caring, that are kind. So I get to choose now.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with choosing. And if that means that there's less, then that's okay as well.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think it's that quality over quantity, and we get a
mhm,
misguided idea of what quantity means. And like, if that quantity isn't healthy relationships that fill your cup, where you fill each other's cups, you support each other, you understand who you know what you need, and you've got a set of values and a why and a sense of who you are, where you know what that looks like and the choice piece that is key, that we see the choice in it, that we're not stuck in a certain way, we don't have to choose a
mhm.
certain thing, we get to make choices about that, and we're worthy of making those choices for ourselves.
It's true. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's completely that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Choice is really important, and it's just. But yeah, I think it comes with like as you grow, you kind of understand that
Mm,
more.
yeah.
That you have more choices. That you're not like stuck in a specific situation or in a specific friendship or a specific relationship. But
Yeah.
that comes with experience, and
It
and and,
does.
and it's not a given.
Yeah.
You're not just born like that. You have to experience things as well. And it's also like, I feel like in all of this, like, I mean, like I've built up so much like resilience, like,
Mm,
because I've had to.
yeah.
Like, I've had to, like, not feel well. I've had to be like down. I've had to, like, those periods happened, but I was
Mhm.
like, I built up my resilience so that, the next time I'm so much better prepared. But
Mhm.
I had to fall. I had to not
Yeah.
feel well. All of those things had to happen in order to get to that to this point. And
Sure.
there's so much more to learn. I'm
Yeah.
so curious as to what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
So.
I love that. I love the curiosity piece. Such a key component. It's a journey. We don't arrive. We continue to evolve and grow. It's so good.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, we're going to ask a couple of wrap up questions, but then we're going to give you a little time to talk about your new project. And it kind of ties back. I thought about asking you about it when we were talking about expectations, but I'm like, no, I want to leave that for the end to wrap up. So we're going to get to this new project in a minute. That's going to be out in the world by the time this episode drops. But before we do that, share with me 5 activities that nourish you.
5 activities that nourish me. The first is writing because I love to write. So one would be writing. The second, and probably right on the top of the list with writing, is my podcast listening, because that is like nourishment all the way. My yoga nidra is my friend. I love yoga nidra. And I would say, like, meditating and praying, I'll put those together, because I do pray, I do meditate, I find my space for that. And then I would say playing with my kids, hanging out with my kids and my family, my husband and my kids. And then obviously, all the other people in my circle that, like, good company definitely nourishes me.
Yeah, I love that. So good. All right. 5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months.
Okay. So I definitely want to stay peaceful. I want to be peaceful. I want to continue to be peaceful, because that is essential for me.
Yeah.
What else? I want to be content with what I'm doing, from my work perspective. I want to continue to be content and satisfied in that. I want to be warm. Okay. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that one, but I want to be warm. So I want the sun. I want to be warm. So I want to feel that warmth on my body. So whether it means, spending the summer at the beach, that will be less than in 6 months, but you know what I mean by that.
Yeah,
so I want to
I
be
do.
warm. Let's see. I think helpful. I want to continue to be helpful to people in any way that I can. So if that means,
Yeah.
like, just listening, or if it means, giving, or whatever I can do, what's in my capabilities.
Yeah.
And then the last one, maybe appreciated. I think appreciated would be nice. Sometimes I think we get so wrapped up with all the things that we're doing that sometimes
Yeah.
we don't feel so appreciated all the time. So appreciated
Yeah.
would be nice as well. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So good. All right. You have a podcast you're going to be starting. At the time we're recording this in March, it's going to start next month. And by the time this releases in May, it's going to have been out in the world. Talk to me about this, because this really, I think, goes back to expectations. It's such a relatable topic for women. And it's something that's, even as much as things have changed and evolved and grown, it's still very real today. And so share with us about what's coming.
Sure. Yeah. So my podcast is called Wives, and it's basically a podcast about women who have had to put their own careers on pause to support their spouses. So we're basically going to have a deep dive into what that looks like, and
Yeah.
what that means for your identity and for your sense of self. And I have to say that, like, it also comes from part of my experience. There's more
Yeah.
to this mess that is Rosamaria, but, like, even that was a big issue for me with my career, because, like,
Sure.
when I decided to stay in Italy and when I came to Germany, like, I put myself on the back burner because my husband's career came first. And that was hard for my sense
Yeah.
of self, my sense of identity, how I felt about myself. So this podcast will actually talk to women who have experienced this, and we'll talk about what they've done to make it through.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. I mean, there's a little
Yeah.
bit of grief in there about grieving careers, because, the thing is, we identify a lot of ourselves by what we do.
We do.
And I don't know if that's right or if it's wrong, but we do that, because when we
Yeah.
talk about ourselves, like, I'm a writer, or I'm an editor, or I'm a podcaster. So, that's what we do. So if you
Yeah.
can't do that, what does that mean for you? So that's what this podcast is about. It's going to launch after Easter.
Okay.
Wives, look for it. It should be good. They're real stories, real conversations. I'm excited about it.
I'm excited too. I can relate to this in a way. My husband's job is in higher ed administration. We've lived all over the country in the US. We haven't lived abroad, but I've been to 48 out of 50 states. I've lived
Wow.
in 7 or 8 of them at this point. I've lost track, honestly. We've moved 12 times. People are like, are you in the military? I'm like, no, it just kind of seems like that. And along the way, what that has meant is I'm the one that's looking for the new job, or I'm the one that's staying home for a while, and that's something we agreed to early on, mainly because his work just paid more than mine. And it wasn't like, he tells me, I was like, I would have been perfectly happy being your sugar daddy. It's just not how it worked out for us financially. He's also like always been supportive of what I'm going to do next. But there's been like, kind of like, you have to kind of accept that, own that, and all of it comes with it. I wouldn't change our journey. The fact that we've gotten to live multiple places, that I've gotten to work in multiple settings, in multiple areas. I was an HR major. I thought I was just going to be the HR person the rest of my life. And I've worked with nonprofits. I've volunteered in human trafficking houses. I've worked in memoir writing environments where you use memoir to help kids tell their stories, to help women in prison tell their stories, to help use memoir to change policy and laws. I've worked at nonprofits that work with high school kids and college kids and teaching them the power of service and how to show up for other people. All of that work led me to doing the work I'm doing now, which is what I really believe I was always meant to do. None of that happens if I'm like, nope, my job's HR. I'm going to build my career here, and I'm not wavering on that. So it has to be a very individualized decision. It's not an easy one. I mean, you work for the Wall Street Journal. That is a coveted agency to work for as a journalist around the world. So I can only imagine what that might have felt like. It's also, you hit on something so important here. It's why I introduce my guests by their character traits, because I long for women to know their value outside of their titles and roles. That's where your value and your foundations are, of knowing who you are. So regardless of what title or role or responsibility shifts, you have a sense of who you are and how that's going to guide you to whatever is next for you. But I'm excited for this. I think these are going to be more conversations that we need to be having. And I love that you're doing, after podcasts have meant so much to you, that you're doing your own. And I find journalists tend to be very good podcasters. So I'm sure this is going to be fantastic.
I hope so.
Share where else can people find you and follow you, get access to your book, all of those things?
Sure. So I have a website. My website is my name. So it's rosamariamancini.com. There you can find information about my memoir, which is called SOS Podcasts. You can pick SOS Podcasts wherever you get your books. Yeah. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you pick up books, it's there. So you can pick it up there, and then you can follow me on, the links are on my website. So you can follow me on Instagram, and you can follow me on LinkedIn. And those are the main ones. So yeah, please follow, stay along for the journey, and it would be great.
All right. And all of that will be linked on our resources page on our website. So you can go look at that there once the podcast drops. So if you're like, I can't write this down right now, that's okay. We've got you covered there. Any last thought you'd like to leave with our listeners today?
Honestly, I just would like to thank you for this great opportunity. It's so fun to have these conversations and to be able to share my thoughts and my ideas. And also, I have to say, sharing such personal things about myself is not always very easy.
Yeah.
But I think that as women, if being able to relate to one another, if my experience with, say, anxiety is able to help somebody else, well, then, so be it. Then it's worthy, and then it's important enough to actually tell that story. So I'm so thankful for this opportunity. So thanks again.
Oh, I'm so thankful for it too. I've been excited for this conversation. Thank you so much for how you show up in the world, your honesty, your vulnerability, your wit. You're making a difference. That book, get that book, guys. It really is relatable. I can't wait to see what happens with the podcast. I appreciate you being with me today, and I'm so excited to share this episode with everyone. Everyone listening today, remember, you are valuable, you are worthy, and you get to choose. You get to choose what's healthiest in alignment for you. Regardless of what's happened to you, you get to make choices within that. And you're worthy and valuable of that. Please don't forget that. Take good care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time on the Feel Podcast. Hello, and thank you so much for being with us today on this episode of the Feel Podcast. If you would like more information on how you can apply these talking points that I share with our guests in each episode to your own life, really utilize this Feel framework, go to embracinglayers.com, fill out our contact form, and let's set up a free 30-minute consultation to talk about how you can start living your most authentic, organic, healthy, feel fueled life. Thanks again for being with us today. We'll be back to you soon with another episode here on the Feel Podcast.